Hi, welcome to The Weirdough. I wanted to talk about pretty privilege and I wanted to rock something kind of like old fashioned. I'm gonna rock like a 1950s look today. I'm actually going to the vineyards later and if you see this video as it's going live, know that I'm currently at the vineyards and you can check out my Instagram and TikTok or whatever to see what I'm doing currently. But I wanted to talk about pretty privilege and I've wanted to talk about this for a while. So it's something I benefit from specifically. Just to like bring it up. This channel used to not be about like makeup and stuff. It used to be about like food and cosplay, but because people genuinely liked when I talk about those items because they see what I look like and they want like more information about like what I do and how I maintain and stuff, I became popular through my appearance, which is a strange thing to bring up. But I just wanted to talk about the negative effects, not just to me specifically, but to women as a whole. Because it's kind of, the way I think about it as like the model minority myth, where you have like you have a bunch of people who are definitely being oppressed, but you let one group of people be successful in a way to hold up the entire system. Because what will happen is infighting within the group instead of actually tackling the bigger issue, which is the system itself. And so I wanted to talk about pretty privilege in that lens, especially considering that I consider myself like an ugly duckling. And then I also wanted to present something very 1950s glam as a counterpoint. Because I think I look great and I honestly like the way this looks, which is very strange considering that topic we're talking about. Now, I specifically went with the Marilyn Monroe kind of style on purpose, but let's just kind of dive into the video. It's gonna be kind of all over the place because I have a lot of things to say and a lot of different things to say, and this is a very complex topic. Hi, let's talk pretty privilege. First, I want to talk about my own personal experience. Also, I'm drinking a glass of wine. This is Cote de Rose. It's actually pretty cheap. You can find it at, it's actually pretty cheap. You can find it at like Target for $15, but if you go like a Total Wine, you can find it for $12. But me. I'm not sure if I can even call myself an ugly duckling because it's not like anything about my face has changed. I'd like more to call myself, I'm in the like TV ugly category of women. You know, the kind of women where they put them in glasses and they tie their hair back, and you put them in frumpy clothes, and like obviously you can still tell they're an attractive woman. It just makes them a little bit less noticeable, so that when you do like the big movie reveal later, like the makeover montage, you can be like, oh my god, was that woman always attractive this entire time? She just needed confidence or a hair, clothing, glasses change, all that kind of stuff to make her beautiful. But it was really inside of her all this time. That's the kind of, like, that's where I sit. Also, I did go to a PWI, and that could be a factor because it could be that like through the lens of like the standard of beauty at that point in time, I could have just been seen as so other that I was just not deemed attractive until later on. Because like within Black spaces, I was definitely considered an attractive person the entire time. Like it was never like a doubt. I was like, my nickname as a child was like pretty, like actually the word pretty. So like, it's not like I wasn't always attractive. It's just now that I dressed better or more well suited for my body. And then also learned how to figure out my hair, then I'm now deemed attractive by everyone. And I honestly think that social media also was a big factor in this because there's more representation of different kinds of people. So when you see a lot more people, I know like my gauge for myself for who can be attractive has definitely changed through me just being on TikTok. And I think that also affected the way in which people see me in like society as a whole. But I don't necessarily want to talk about pretty privilege in general, but like first, what is pretty privilege? Now, I am Black, so like that's a thing that is going to affect like how much pretty privilege I have, but I'm also very symmetrical in the face. I generally grow longer hair. I'm generally skinny. It's actually the biggest I've ever been because of the pandemic, but I'm still like a size 4. Like a questionable size 4, I'd still be like a Zara size 6. If you ever shopped at Zara, you know what I'm talking about. But like, you know what I mean? Like, yes, I don't fit into like like the baseline for like pretty privileged people, but I do fit enough of those things that I still benefit from Eurocentric standard of beauty. And it's a weird one. It's a weird one for me, for sure. I think I thought that all of my problems would be fixed if I were to become more attractive, which I think a lot of people think. But as a person who has achieved said goal or whatever, I still had to face my internal issues to fix like my overall problems. But I understand that like I still have privilege within my appearance because people want to like me and people want to trust me through the halo effect. Which just kind of just makes life easier because people go out of their way to help me. And I know I'm going to be talking about the negative side of pretty privilege, but I want to state for the record that being considered attractive is way, way better than not being considered attractive. I just want to say that like maybe there's some negative sides to it as well that we should discuss, because it could be a good way to just talk about a lot of other oppressive things that are happening even at the closer to the top you get or whatever, or what have you. And I definitely want to talk about it in regards to being a woman. So first, I want to talk about the capitalism side of everything. Now, you can straight up just buy beauty at this point. We all know this. BBLs have become one of the most like popular forms of plastic surgery at this point in time because that is now the beauty standard, having a small waist and a big behind. Just like the hourglass figure has been a part of the beauty standard for a while now, and now you can just kind of buy it. Also, I just want to point out the amount of money I spend on beauty. Now these are before pandemic numbers, but I still want to bring it up. I used to get a facial once a month because my skin is really oily, and if I don't get a facial pretty regularly, I will have clogged pores, especially in my T-zone. And then also I get waxed twice a month, which is expensive as well. I get my nails done twice a month. Not pedicures, manicures though, before pandemic times. And that was expensive. And then also I get my hair done. Especially considering that I have highlights, it's expensive to do. So, not only having the money to get those things is expensive, but also having the time to get those things done is expensive. You need money to maintain your beauty, and you also need the time to maintain your beauty. And you're gonna have a lot more time on your hands if you have money to take off that time to do those things. Flip the coin, if you are pretty, you tend to make more money because of the halo effect, because people go out of their way to help you. There's actually studies that are being shown that teachers pay more attention to attractive kids, which means they're gonna have better grades, which means they're going to be able to get into better colleges, which will give them more opportunity to make money. Also, this is during the pandemic, it's the first time I've had to work remote, and least amount of money I've ever made in my life. I used to be a female bartender, and when I tell you can literally just make money off of people thinking you're attractive, you can. Also, I'm on social media. Like, how have I not brought up the fact that I'm on social media? Like, obviously my attractiveness is beneficial to me being on social media, because a lot of people think that I'm pretty, so they're more willing to follow me. Like, this was originally not going to be a beauty channel, but because people think I'm beautiful, putting on makeup is something you guys are willing to watch me do, which is why I'm doing it more often, because people think I'm pretty. So right now I'm just kind of talking about not positive things, negative systems that in a way work out or in a way benefit me based on my attractiveness. I'm able to make more money. I'm well trusted. People tend to want to like me. And so my life is just generally a little bit easier. It's easier. I want to tell like a story here. A friend and I were out a district winery, and we got a little bit too drunk and we wanted to sober up before we went home, right? So I should still do my makeup because this is why these videos take forever. So we wanted to sober up a little bit. We went to a bar across the street from the winery we went to. We went from District Winery to the pizza place across, and because they were really slow at the pizza place, they did not want us to go home, so they gave us free food and drink, which brought people in because we were sitting on the bar and you could literally see us drinking and having fun from where we were sitting, because the bar is like angled in such a way that you can see it from the window. So through us sitting there, more people came into the restaurant, not just men, but women too, because we look like two fun, attractive girls having a good time at this restaurant. Now, I know you're thinking, that's great, you got free food because you brought in business. Yeah, but like, you gotta think about like the fact that I was literally, me and my friend were literally treated like a commodity. Like, we were being objectified into the free food. Like, we would not have gotten free food if we were not attractive and bringing in business. And so yes, it's technically a positive because we didn't have to pay for that food, but there's something kind of icky about the reasons why. You know what I mean? Like, yes, but also no. Often when women complain about being objectified, especially if they're conventionally attractive, it's not taken as seriously because people just kind of assume that that's supposed to happen to them, which is kind of sad when you think about it, especially when it's like a woman who's not really taking the objectification seriously. Like, I literally do not roll my windows down the closer I get to my own home, like, because I can't anymore. And for everyone, it's like, what do you mean you can't roll your windows down? I love listening to music as I'm riding closer to my home. Or like, I listen to music with the windows down, it makes me really happy, and I can't do that anymore. I'm no longer allowed to do that anymore. I no longer allow myself to do that anymore because I've been followed home. I know, yes. So I would literally be just driving, hanging out in my car, vibing to my music, and some guy will see me just kind of vibing and feel this weird need to talk to me about it. And I'm not really interested because you're a complete stranger. I don't know you. Like, why would I be interested in that kind of attention? Especially when it's aggressively sexual majority of the time. And so whenever I reject guys during this time period, it does not go well. And then one guy took it upon himself to follow me. I did call the police. Generally speaking, I never call the police but I felt a really weird feeling in the pits of my stomach. So I did call the police and he was arrested because he had priors. So I now live my life in a slight bit of fear of rolling my windows down on the way home from work or on the way home from anywhere. And so now I don't do that. I'm not allowed to roll my windows down on the way home because now I could be harassed and followed. That's one of the worst things. That's the main thing I missed about not being considered attractive by like everyone, is anonymity. And it's just the freedom to do stuff in public by myself. Like, I can't do things in public by myself. I try to often because I enjoy doing things alone. Like, my favorite thing to do before, until once again a creepy man ruined it for me, was going to a hotel bar and reading books, because they don't really card at hotel bars. So you can, not like hotel bars, but like lobbies where they also serve food and stuff. You can sit there and read and be like not 21, and you can eat food, and it's a quiet place, and it's a good place for me to like just read books. Now I can't do that. Because men are gross. Why? I just want to read. I just want to read and eat food at the same time, and you can't do that in a library. So the view of beautiful women in society is a double-edged sword that I want to bring up now. There is this like discussion about if you are in a conventionally attractive friend group, if you are toxic, and I'd like to argue against that. First, I think it feels weird to even have to say this into a camera, but your appearance does not dictate your character in any form. And there's a really negative view of women who are conventionally attractive, or like who who care about being conventionally attractive because they're seen as ditzy and dumb or ambitious and mean. And I generally blame the media and like tropes about that, and I will be discussing that later. But first, as a person who went from being not considered attractive to being considered attractive, my friend groups did change. And it wasn't intentional. I want to say that. It's just you want to be friends with people who have similar life experiences to you. And unfortunately, if you are conventionally attractive, you live a different life. Like, it's just a different life. People treat you differently. And it's not, and I noticed it starting with my friendships, because people generally treat me better in a group setting if I was the most attractive person in that group setting. And especially because a lot of my friend groups before were based on like me, I don't know. I have more conventionally attractive friends now than I did before I was conventionally attractive, and I think it's because of the weird pedestal that people put attractive people on just to throw tomatoes at them. And like, two things happened. Either it fell into the camp of the person now thinking that, I don't know, like, we made it. Like, I don't know, something like that, where it's just like an idolization of a person where I could feel them staring more at my mouth than listening to the words coming out of it. And that is a very confusing and annoying and aggressive. Like, at first it felt good, like having someone like really, like, I don't know, think of me as an attractive person and stuff. It felt really nice, but also you could feel them not caring about anything else. And that goes for both men and women in my life. And then you had the other side of things, which was the worser side of things, where I was just feeling an odd amount of resentment from certain people that I no longer talk to due to that. Because, and I don't even blame them, because like, what do you even do when you're obviously watching your friend being treated better and knowing that a big factor in them being treated better, even if you are doing harder work or like should be treated the same way, if not better, is the fact that that person is attractive. Like, how do you deal with that on the other end? And then also, how does the attractive person deal with that within regards to their friends? Do they placate to their friends? Do they advocate for their friends in the friend group? Because I've done that and it doesn't go well, because it now feels like I'm being facetious. It can feel as if I am being patronizing toward this person, or you can go the other way and just like act as if it's not happening, which is kind of like a form of like gaslighting your friend into like, oh, they're not treating me any differently. We're both the same. Everything's fine, blah, 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 blah. And it causes a rift within the friend group. No matter either way, the friend group falls apart. So that's a big struggle to deal with, because you know you're being treated better. They know you're being treated better. You both know why the person's being treated better. And it's not like anything's going to change now. And there was a point in time where I would dim myself down, is what I'm calling it, in an effort to try to even the playing field. But like, also, why am I self-sabotaging? That's not is a weird form of an apology. Sorry, the genetics took over and I formed a sense of style and now the world treats me better. It's not my fault the way people have decided to treat me. And I feels weird to have to apologize for getting to places I am going, even if the game is rigged. It just kind of feels like a weird. My therapist described it as a fake apology. Like, it's not actually fixing anything by sabotaging myself, but it makes me feel better. And it doesn't actually make the other person feel better at all, because they now can see, with me dimming myself down, that they have like confirmation that my life is easier through my appearance, because anytime I dim myself down, they were able to get to the things that they wanted, that they get to the things that they thought they deserved by me forfeiting it to them. and it causes this horrible sense of competitiveness within your friends. So eventually fights would ensue, no conflict resolution would occur, and now all my friends are conventionally attractive. Because there's no like weird sense of competition, the power dynamic's the same. And it's an unfortunate fact, the power dynamic will be off if you are a conventionally attractive person with that's not conventionally attractive, because the world gives you power. It has nothing to do with you. It's like the world, society has deemed you better for no real reason. And so it reflects in your life. Like, real life example, me and a friend both, well, I wasn't working at this place, but my friend was working at this place. And she was like, hey, you should join on. They need more people, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. And so I was like, sure, cool beans, I'll come over there, apply for the job, yada, yada. We were both working this job for like months. She'd been working there a lot longer, and I was just kind of seasonal, and then they asked me to stay. And so I was just kind of there. Part-time. She was full-time, I had another job or whatever. Later down the road, we were talking about just like money, like how much money I made, how much money she made there. She made $2 less than I did. We were thinking about this. We both were thinking about like, how did this happen? How was I making $2 more than her, even though I had worked there less? And then it really just came down to me asking. Like when they presented me with the pay, I was like, because I already had another job where I was getting paid more. So I was like, I would prefer to be paid this much. And she didn't negotiate. And I know what you're thinking, that maybe that has nothing to do with pretty privilege. I think it does. I think it's a very insidious part of the pretty privilege that we need to talk about, because I have halo effect, because people want to like me, because people want to be around me and like me, which is a beautiful representation of what I'm talking about, was said in this Netflix movie. I'll put the title down here, where it's not just someone wanting to be liked by you, but they want to be like you, and in association with you, they then treat you better, right? So with all these things, me knowing all these things, I didn't think there was no hesitation in me asking for more money, because I knew that they give it to me. Now, the person I'm talking about she's a beautiful girl. She's just not conventionally attractive. So I honestly believe she didn't think to ask, because she doesn't live the life I live, where people are going out of their way to be helpful, where people are going out of their way to be nice to me, where people are going out of their way to make sure I'm happy. She doesn't experience that. So I don't think she thought to ask. So when they offered her money, she took it. And that's the worst part of this entire system. And that's why I think conventionally attractive friends, or conventionally attractive people, tend to be friends with each other. Because that was the beginning, I think, was the beginning of the end of our friendship, to be frank. I want to talk about the media tropes about beautiful women, because they're very negative, and I think it's a calculated move, and here's why. First, let's talk about the gold digger trope. Okay, so gold digger, the term, is actually coined in a book called The Ne'er-Do-Well by Rex Baker, and it was, generally speaking, a gender-neutral term for a while, talking about both men and women who marry for money. Think about it. Dowries were once a thing. So dowries were a way for men who were lower station to become wealthy if they just found a woman who's willing to marry them from a wealthy family. So gold digging was not just about women until later on. Now, let's talk about the 1880s. In the 1880s, a wave of laws rolled through that if you were married, you were not allowed to work. So if you were a single woman, you could work until you got married. So that means that marrying well was a bigger deal, because the second you got married, you weren't allowed to work. Or even got engaged, honestly, you weren't allowed to work anymore. So the biggest form of social mobility within women was marrying someone with money. And at first, marrying well was seen as a heroic thing to do if you're a woman, because literally it was the only form of power you could of like aggressive change in power and change in station and change in socioeconomic level. So it was seen as like the ultimate accomplishment was like marrying someone well off, especially if you were not well off yourself. And even in media at the time. So there's two different things I want to bring up here. It was the Three Broadway Girls, which is the movie about three women, chorus dancers who were unemployed, who pulled their money together and decided to live in a luxury apartment in New York. And they were able to get clothing and develop a nice accent, or like a more like pristine accent, so that they can navigate different social levels that they were first navigating. And it was seen like as an American dream movie where a woman was able to work her way up from nothing. Like, doesn't that sound like an American dream narrative? And it was seen as a positive thing. And then also there is the Gold Diggers of 1933, which is a musical with the same kind of note in there. Now, I think it's very funny because almost immediately after that, the Hays Code now deemed gold diggers as nefarious. As if you can't love a man for his money and also his personality. Maybe him having money was just like a prerequisite to you wanting to date someone, and later on you suss people out through like their actual personality. No, it's just the love is a lie. Women are greedy, and the only reason why a woman will want a man with money is because he has money, because of men's insecurities. Honestly, let's talk about it. It's an insecurity thing. Like, if you're worried about a woman only dating you for your money, it's because you know you have nothing else to offer, right? And it also, something very gross about this trope to me, is the idea that men are stupid. Like, it's like men are so capable until they're not. Like, until there's like a bit of responsibility in there. Like, are we seriously acting like men don't marry the like young hot girl because they want a young hot girl, and that it's a mutually beneficial thing? And it's not even that mutually beneficial, because when you think about it in those terms, he's older, he has money, she's younger and impressionable and doesn't have anything to herself. So like, where is the power even within that kind of relationship? Like, let's make it make sense, you know? And so that was one way in which we could demonize beautiful women, because generally speaking, women that are cast for these kind of ideas and who do this kind of thing even in modern day time are the kind of women who are conventionally attractive and kind of lean into that as a way to progress. And I don't think that's something that we should see as a negative thing, because honestly all that trope is doing is making the standard for men as low as possible. Like, the bar is on the ground. Because like, now if you even want a guy to be employed as like a thing, that as a prerequisite to you dating him, or having his life together as a prerequisite to you dating him, then you're just like a gold digger. It's not like you have your own success. It's not like, also, why would you need it if you're marrying someone? This whole like cap of like, oh well, maybe like if she's like successful on her own, then it's okay for her to marry. Well, if he wants to marry her and she wants to marry him, then who cares why they're getting married if it's not damaging to either party, is the better statement that should be stated at this point in time. And then there's another negative trope about conventionally attractive women, and I want to talk about that too. I've already touched on it on the Regina George video, but I'm bringing it up now. The mean girl trope, that I think is also very nefarious in its reasonings, especially in regards to women in general, but also specifically conventionally attractive women wanting to be ambitious. And so because women are socialized in a fashion to be nice all the time, we don't have a healthy way of expressing ourselves when we're angry, which comes out as manipulation and lying and rumor spreading, and that kind of tactic to express our anger, which is not good. We should be able to express our anger in a more healthy fashion. We want women to be successful and competitive and smart and things like men are, but because we're socializing women to not behave in a way that men can behave, it just becomes this weird form of like niceness where it's just like lying but smiling through your teeth. That tends to occur when a woman is ambitious and determined. And then also those women tend to be, mean girls specifically tend to be really hyper feminine, and I don't really like feminine, hyper femininity being linked to ambition and determination and believing in yourself the way that it is, because it then makes it reinforces the Madonna whore trope. It creates this weird belief that women can either be pretty but like they should know, they should be, you don't know you're beautiful kind of pretty, where it's just like, I'm just like a dumb little dim-witted person who just happens to fall into the situations that lead me to success, instead of actually fighting for it and wanting things and being, and like actually being the controller of the situation. Or you can be smart, but you can't be leaning on your looks, because almost always when there's someone who's pretty and smart, it's the mean girl trope. It's she's conniving, she's cunning, she's ambitious without any heart, she's also conventionally attractive and charismatic, but it's all fake. Like literally it becomes this really horrible idea that that a woman who is both smart and pretty is the worst version of a woman. She's a villain. She's a villain of every story. And I think it's a bit more, something that's a bit more egregious about this is that generally speaking, the mean girl trope is specifically in women-led stories. So it teaches women to fight with each other, and when it should be a critique on the system. Like it should more often be a critique on the system that women are caused to, this infighting is happening whenever someone is ambitious, and instead of it being about the division of power within men and women, it becomes a division of power between women, is like we're fighting over scraps here instead of actually dealing with the actual issues. It should be more criticized about the system in which these women thrive in, because that's what makes them so angry. If you think about mean girl tropes, they're always really rooted in their rage, but their rage comes from two different things. Women being told their entire goal in life is to be married, which women can have passions outside of that. And so they're bored, which is why they manipulate and play with people's lives. They're just actually bored. They don't really have any real hobbies because their entire life goal is to get married. And so their entire representation of what they need to be is outward appearance, because that's what women are valued in regards to marriage, is their youth and their beauty. And then also there's a bit of rage because the person who's able to navigate this kind of world has to be aware of the world they're living in. So they have a very cynical and very realistic understanding of the system, which they know is a really wronged, rigged system, but these women are afraid to dismantle the system because currently they sit on top. And if they dismantle the system, they might lose a bit of power that they already currently possess. Which brings me to my next part of this video: femininity and feminism, and why they're constantly fighting. So I call myself a feminist for a particular reason. It's not like out of nowhere. As a person who is both Black and in the LGBTQ community, I understand assimilation. Assimilation is something I picked up on very quickly in regards to the feminist movement. If you have to change yourself in any way, shape, or form to be respectable, that's not equality, that's assimilation. And I think of the type of women who are considered respectable within the feminist movement as a form of assimilation. Like if I have to put on a suit instead of a dress for you to respect me, then that's not equality. You get what I'm saying? Like it's a form of oppression, because now I have to change myself for you to like me, or for you to deem me as a person who's deserving of respect. You know what I mean? Like if you want to be a girl boss CEO person, then go right ahead, do that. But we shouldn't be judging women who just want to be housewives. Like, furthermore, and this might be a controversial take, but if you can't fight for body autonomy and then also be judgmental of women who get plastic surgeries, because like the math ain't mathin'. You know what I mean? Like, do you get what I'm saying? Like, it's your body, your choice. It's just like a really strict rule in regards to like what is considered empowerment. And I think there's very negative effects within society due to these arbitrary rules that are in a way in themselves misogynistic. Because like, why do women have to put on more masculine roles in society to be deemed respectable? That's what it is. It's putting on more masculine roles. It's deeming that feminine roles and feminine things are less than, and so you should be taking on more masculine things to be considered a respectable woman. I know that I fit into the male gaze, and I know that because of that, things that I do that it could be deemed as attractive within the patriarchy might get a negative outlook, but the point is within the feminist movement that it's about choice. I'm choosing. I like cooking. Like, I generally like cooking. Like, ever since I was a kid, I liked cooking. My mom was a chef, and then I watched Food Network as like my main channel for the majority of my life. I don't cook because men like food, because everyone likes food. We're humans. But like, the amount of like negative feedback I get for my weird love of food is strange, because like no one ever thinks a man wants to be a chef, because, and also men chefs get paid more. Like, oh, I've already brought this up in another video, but like, holy crap. If you're a woman doing a feminine role, you get paid less than a man doing that same role. If women are supposed to be in the kitchen, why are there less female head chefs? That makes zero sense to me. Like, all of a sudden now it makes money. I want to bring this up because I had to deal with this situation this week that I think the infighting is being caused by, and I hope that this is not the case, but I'm starting to lean into it being the case, considering that it's now reflecting into my actual life. I don't want to go into the whole detail. I've been a victim of what's called like reactionary abuse very often. Not once, not twice, a bunch of times in my life. Where I'm not actually harassing or bullying anybody, but my mere existence is living in someone else's head rent-free, to the point where they're harassing and bullying me, but due to the negative view of, like, it's worked out this week in the situation I'm dealing with currently, and if you follow me on TikTok, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But generally speaking, when someone who is threatened by someone else, but seen as a victim in society, they can get away with harassing and bullying the person they're intimidated by, because even if they're lying about their abuse, they're more likely to be believed. Okay, so the worst part of it all, it divides us. Because of this weird form of assimilation that is required to be a feminist, it attacks femininity in this aggressive way, to the point where now we don't have preteens. Like, have you ever thought about like why their preteens now look like adult women? It's because we've attacked the things that would be considered feminine underneath this weird hatred of femininity, and within this, because femininity is a part of the patriarchy, it just kind of rolls its way downhill. And so now, like, we already attacked like things that teenage girls like before. Like, let's not play as if we didn't do that. Like, have you realized like how horrible the attack on Twilight was? It's because it was like a girly book. Like, yeah, it was bad, but let's not try to play like other like male-centered books are good. Male-centered books are not good. I've read a few of them. They're bad. They're also really, really bad. But they don't get hate. You think about One Direction being hated. Think about most feminine things being hated. Even when it comes to like the way in which we attack like girls in media. I see this all the time. Whenever there's like a really, really popular girl that's just like popular, like super duper popular, eventually the whole world turns on her, and it happens out of nowhere. Like, it could be like one or two things that will literally drive her entire career out down the drain, and it happens all the time. Like, a girl will get super duper popular, and then all of a sudden she's a horrible person, and we don't hold men to the same criteria. And I think that's a messed up thing that's happening, and I think that's because of like the whole weird attack on femininity. But we gotta also understand that those women got to those places because of pretty privilege, and maybe that's a little bit of what's going on, is that we notice that that they're talented, but they're not that talented. And now we're mad at them for being where they are, even though we put them there, which is that weird thing I was talking about when it comes to the putting a person on a pedestal just to throw tomatoes at them thing that's happening. And a lot of the times when we think about pretty privilege, it's a very women-centered conversation. We don't think about or talk about like the amount of privilege that attractive men get, especially if men fit into they don't even have to fit into female gaze, they can just fit into male gaze and be considered and reap the benefits of pretty privilege without actually being criticized in any fashion. See things through their own lens and not as they are actually happening. And so you have to understand what's going on outside of your own life to really be able to depict and criticize and improve on your own life. It really just makes things easier to be able to see things from other points of view. And if you made it this far, I just want to say thank you so much for watching. I will be back next week talking about the Gossip Girl reboot and why I hate it. And then I just want to say thank you for all the people who are joining me from TikTok. I love you guys so much, and I'm almost at 1,000. So if you are really liking the video, please like it because I'm so close to 1,000 followers. Love you guys. See you guys next week. Bye.